So what you just saw there was a Python script SSHing into 6 different network devices. So at the moment we have Cisco management switch, we have our Arista here, our VEVOS, we have another Cisco IOS switch, we have a ISXE device, we have another iOS switch, we have an iOS XR device, and we have a Juniper device. So basically 4 different platforms all together. We pulled that information literally in seconds, basically each one printing out to the actual screen. It took about 15 seconds in total. And the script that did that, it's around about 20 odd lines of Python code. So that is what Netmiko can do for you, and that's exactly what we're going to be building towards in this series. So welcome to the Netmiko automation for network engineers. So now I'm going to be straight with you off the bat. This series assumes that you already know your way around Python basics. You should be comfortable with variables, dictionaries, loops and functions. If you're not quite there yet, well, that's absolutely fine, but Netmiko probably might not be your next step. However, we will explain all the Python bits as we go through. So even if you're not completely comfortable with Python, you'll still understand what we're doing as we go along the next 15 videos. So the first thing is, why does Netmiko exist? What problem is it actually solving? Okay, so basically think about your day-to-day as a network engineer. How many times have you opened a terminal, SSH'd into a device, run a show command, looked at the output, maybe copy and pasted something into a spreadsheet, then moved on to the next device and basically done exactly the same thing again. Complete and utter repetition. That process is fine when you've only got 5 devices, and especially like in this lab when we've only got 6, but it gets really tedious really quickly when you've got, say, let's say 50 devices, and it basically falls apart completely when you've got like hundreds of devices, or when your manager wants a report every Monday morning showing the interface status of every device on the network. Now, Python has a library called Paramiko that basically handles SSH, and you might be thinking, well, why not just use that? The problem with Paramiko is that it was built for connecting to Linux servers, and network devices, well, basically are not Linux servers. So networking devices have interactive CLI prompts. They sit there waiting for you to, press enter or type yes. They paginate long outputs, why we have to always keep pressing more, or pressing the space button. You have like user exec modes, you have enable modes, you've got config modes, and you have to navigate between all of them, and every single vendor does it slightly differently. So Paramiko doesn't know how to do any of that. You'd have to write all that handling yourself, for every vendor, every time, which is basically a lot of work and a lot of room for things to go wrong. So Netmiko does this all for you. It was built specifically for networking devices by a network engineer, Kirk Byers. He's got some fantastic stuff on a lot of the training platforms and on YouTube as well. He basically got fed up with the exact same problem. It handled, what he's done now handles pagination, it handles prompts, it handles the mode switching, and all those little vendor quirks that, get buried away and, basically get you tripped up when you're trying to do things. So basically all you need to do is tell it what device you're connecting to, give it your credentials, and ask it to do something. And that is literally it. Okay, so now don't worry too much about understanding every single bit of this code right now. We're going to go through it in detail in the next video, but let's give you a quick overview just so you know what you're looking at. So first we have the from import connect handler. This is basically, this line here is basically telling us to import the connect handler from the Netmiko libraries. So once we've done that, that handles everything for us. So that handles all of the SSH connections. So, and means we don't have to sit there and try to manually create the connection statuses ourselves. So then we build our dictionary. So our device, as we can see here, our device is a dictionary, because you can see it's in the dictionary braces here. And this has key value pairs in there. So device type, what sort of device it is. In this case, it's a Cisco IOS XE, which means that Netmiko knows how to handle this particular device. What host we're connecting to. You'll notice again how it's key and then values. What our username, what our password actually is as well to get onto the device. And because we've told it what device it is, i.e. a Cisco IOS XE, it knows how to handle these little quirks. It knows whether it needs to go into enable mode, how to get into configuration mode, how to get out of configuration mode. It knows whether it needs to use a commit or whether it needs to do a copy running config, startup config. It knows these things because you've told it what sort of device you're connecting to. And the bottom section here, the with connect handler, this basically handles the actual session for us. And then we have our commands, what we're going to do. So we're going to do our connection send command show version. If you wanted to, let's say, do a control Z, and you'll see the other commands I had in there. Again, connection handler or connect send command, show IP interface brief, show IP route, show version. And then we got our basic print commands. And then once it's completed all the commands that you've asked it to do with connect handler, it will then automatically close your SSH session for you. Nice and easy. Don't worry if it's a little bit confusing at the moment. As we go along, we will break this down bit by bit, and eventually we will be automating all of our devices in the lab, in our mixed vendor lab. Right, so throughout the series, we're going to be working in the lab. It's been built in EVE-NG. I will be including the topology there for you. So if you have access to the actual images, then you'll be able to follow along. Let's have a little look at the topology so we know exactly what we're dealing with here. Okay, so at the top we've got our management switch. Now we need that, obviously. Now we're not going to be doing any automation against the management switch at all. That is just there to act as a data plane so we can SSH onto our actual devices. So basically on the left here we have an Arista VEOS. See, Aristas are actually quite massive in data centers and basically modern enterprise networks as well. And the EOS platform is quite interesting because it's actually built on Linux underneath it. So it's what's called API first. It's designed to be automated. It's a great device to work with, and it behaves quite differently to Cisco, which makes it quite an interesting learning point, to be fair. Next, we've got our switch here. This is a basic Cisco IOS switch. It's got classic iOS. Most of you should already be familiar with iOS. And the Netmiko type for that is Cisco_IOS when we do our device. The next thing we have in the middle here is our CSR, the Cisco IOS XE device. It's basically the modern successor to the classic iOS. From a CLI perspective, it basically feels very similar, but under the hood, it's actually quite different. And Netmiko treats this as its own device type. You may be aware that virtually, not all, but virtually all the commands that you can run on iOS will run on iOS XE. However, when you're trying to automate, you need to be specific in what platform you're doing, because some things under the hood are dealt with slightly differently. And of course, this CSR is what we're going to be connecting to on our next video. Then we have switch 2 here. This is basically another iOS switch. And next to that, we have a XRV. So this is a Cisco IOS XR device, which we have right here. Now, iOS XR is basically Cisco's carrier grade platform. It works very differently to iOS and iOS XE in basically one really important way. It uses a 2-stage commit model. So you make your changes and then you have to explicitly commit them before they actually take any effect. We'll cover exactly how Netmiko handles that when we get to the XR video. But as just remember, as a rule of thumb, when you're using iOS or iOS XE or even EVOS for Arista, as soon as you put something into the terminal, it's applied. Whereas iOS XR, you have to commit it first. And then finally on the right here, at the end, we have a Juniper SRX firewall. This is basically connected back into the topology via the iOS XR device, which is kind of like a nice realistic design. You'll see that sort of thing in live environment. And again, the Juniper device works very, very similar to iOS XR. Actually, maybe I should swap that round. iOS XR works very, very similar to Juniper. So the Juniper also has a commit model as well. So anything you type into the terminal is not going to be applied immediately. It will have to go through the actual commit process. And again, Netmiko can handle that. So basically we've got 4 completely different CLI platforms, across 6 devices. And we're going to use Netmiko to automate all of them. And you're going to understand through these videos how each of these platforms react to Netmiko. Okay, so let's have a quick overview of what we're going to be doing. So we've got about 15 videos in total. So in the next video, we're going to be getting Netmiko installed and making our first connection. After that, we're going to build up progressively, working with output, pushing config changes, scaling up to multiple devices at the same time. And then we spend a video on each of the vendor platforms, iOS XE, XR, Arista and Juniper, looking specifically at the quirks and gotchas for each one that we basically need to know about. We've also got videos on a text FMS, or FSM rather, which is quite a powerful tool for turning raw show command output into structured data that you can actually work with in Python. It's quite a bit of a game changer, to be honest. And then the series finishes with 2 project videos. The first one being a config backup scripts that pulls the running configs from all the devices and saves them to timestamp files. And basically the end one is an end-to-end automation across the entire topology. Basically like the demo that you saw at the beginning of the video, but of course a lot more involved with that, doing some good things, maybe even setting up some routing protocols on the actual devices so we can get some good stuff going. All right, so this is the first video sorted here for Netmiko. Just a quick little taster of what it is. In the next video, we are going to jump right in and start using it. Look forward to seeing you there.